If you're tired of having low budget after low budget project, this video is for you. Have you ever felt that going through the effort of finding clients is too much work? What if we can 10x the revenue that you get from each client? At the end of this video, you'll be well equipped to convince clients to go from a low budget, one-time project to a high ticket, long-term retainer. Today, I'm going to share with you 3 specific things you can do right now that will allow you to start landing high ticket projects. Let's get into it. If it's your first time here, my name is Chris Pieta. I teach creative business online. Each day, I practice what I teach in my own production company that I run. This video is all about increasing the revenue per project using retainers. We all know how frustrating it can be when we've cold emailed hundreds of clients, gotten on dozens of phone calls, sent handfuls of proposals, and closed deals, only for that deal to be for a tiny project. We spent dozens of hours on sales, but $1,000 as a return doesn't seem like it's worth it. What if I told you there's an easy and realistic way to take that $1,000 project and transform it into a $10,000 plus project? We're talking about retainers. What are retainers? Well, by the end of this video, this will be your favorite word. I'm sure you've heard retainer used in your favorite lawyer shows. Typically, a lawyer charges their client a retainer so that they can retain their services whenever they need them. We're using a very similar idea. A retainer is an extended contract for multiple months that your client agrees to work with you for. Let me show you an example. Let's say your base package is $1,000 for 10 photos. A simple retainer model can be 10 photos a month for 12 months for 10 grand. Now for the math majors in the audience, you're gonna tell me 12 times 1,000 equals 12,000, not 10,000. Well, let's not worry about that right now. The important thing to note is that you're offering a set service at a reoccurring basis for a specific timeline. These are the 3 components you need to establish with your client: what you're offering, how often you're offering it, and for how long. In our example, we're offering 10 photos every month for 12 months. Easy peasy. If you don't have packages you can offer yet, then I highly suggest you check out my packages video after you're done with this. I'll link that down below. As a quick recap, you always want to be offering packages to your clients rather than individual deliverables. You should have a few packages you can offer at various price points. For my company, my cheapest package is 10 photos and 1 video for about 10 grand. Inside the package, I also include free bonuses for clients. I include things like fast turnaround times, online tracking of project status, mood boards, props, styling. The list goes on and on. The package is designed in a way that presents a core offer to the client as well as bonuses to convince them to buy with me rather than another photographer. Check out my full video on this if you still need help. Once you have a core offer, you can easily apply it to retainers. All you need to do is just say you'll give the client the deliverables from your package every month for a year. You've got your offer, you've just extended it. Now I know what some of you are probably thinking at this point. Why would a client commit to 12 months of working with you for the same price as 12 individual packages? Well, normally they wouldn't. It's up to you to incentivize them to do so. How do we incentivize? The easiest way to do this is to offer the client a discount. You'll tell them you'll work with them for 12 months at 20% off discount of your normal fee. That's enticing for the client. They get your typical services for 20% off. And while you're going to be making less money, you've got a client locked in for many, many months. Client acquisition process is the same whether it's for one project or for a retainer. So why not push for the retainer? For the same amount of upfront work, you'll be making way more money. Another huge perk of retainers is guaranteed income for an extended period of time. We all know how hard it is being a freelancer or business owner when you don't know when our next paycheck is coming in. There's so much uncertainty in this game when it comes to landing deals. That uncertainty goes away with retainers. When clients agree to our retainer, the payment structure is usually monthly. That means you'll have a paycheck coming in from that client every month. It gives you security. So yes, even though you're giving a client a discount, you're gaining secured payments for an extended period of time. It's a great trade-off if you ask me. Now, if you don't have a single client yet, I actually have a free course on my website that over 600 students have taken. Check that out in the description below to finally land your first client. There are dangers to this retainer model. The good news is that you can avoid them relatively easily. When I was starting out, I was eager to take on any client that would want a retainer. The dollar amount was just too tempting to turn down. Eventually, this backfired. Almost all of my clients are awesome, but occasionally you get some bad ones. I ended up with a client that was a pain to work with, and I was stuck with them for the entire duration of the contract. Luckily, it was only a 3-month contract, so this lesson was learned without much pain. We all know how some clients are. They want to micromanage every part of the project. they're bad about paying on time. They try and change the scope of things and overwork you, or they're just flat out rude. Whatever the situation, you'll come across these clients over the course of your career. I've already made a whole video on dealing with bad clients, so I'm not going to go into that here. The problem with retainers is that if you end up with a bad client, you're stuck with them. The easiest way to avoid this is to never do retainers as the first project with a client. I always like to do a one-time project with a client to see how they are to work with. If we're going to be working for a long time, then you want to make sure they're a good client. And the good news here is that the client usually wants to test you out as well. They want to see what kind of photographer or videographer you are. They want to make sure that you're professional, timely, and can deliver on the promised results. It goes both ways here, and that's a good thing. However, I know how tempting it might be to sign on with a client after seeing that 5-figure deal in the works. That's a lot of money. You can try and scope out what type of client they're going to be by asking a few questions and hopping on an onboarding call with them prior to signing a contract. A question I love to ask clients is, what made you stop working with your previous photographer? Depending on how they answer this, you can get a pretty good idea of what kind of client they are. If they say they've worked with 5 photographers in the past and none of them were really good, that's most likely not the photographer's fault. Probably some issue with the client. If you can't get along with everyone you meet, it's probably your fault, not theirs. If the client answers that question with, well, our styles didn't match up exactly, we want something more specific like action photography that we saw in your portfolio, then this just sounds like a good client. Just to be sure, ask a lot of follow-up questions and make sure to listen to them. Listen how your potential client talks about the previous people they've worked with. You can learn a lot from them. You can also ask something like, what are the mistakes previous photographers have made when working with you? This is another great question to gauge how they will be as a client. If you're not seeing any red flags and you really want to get started on a retainer as your first project with a client, then go for it. Just be aware of the risks involved. Okay, so we know what retainers are, we know the dangers of them. How do we actually implement them into our creative business? Step 1, we already covered. We have our core offer that we extend for many months as a retainer. We know what we are offering on a recurring basis for a set duration. Reoccurring usually will mean monthly, but I have clients that have opted for quarterly as well. In this situation, they'll get a set of photos once a quarter for a year. I try and get clients on a monthly schedule, but quarterly works too if the client insists. I try and be flexible here. In terms of duration of the retainer, I've been talking about 12-month retainers here, but you can offer as many months as you want. My shortest retainers have been 3 months and my longest have been 12. I think it's good to have some flexibility here. You should also have a minimum as well. I like 3 months. We were talking about discounts earlier. The way I offer my discounts is a direct correlation with how long the retainer is for. The longer the retainer, the bigger the discount. For a 3-month retainer, I might only do 10% off the total package, but for a 12-month retainer, we can bring that number up to 20 or even 25%. At that stage, you're going to be negotiating a bit to try and get the best price. Previously, we talked about our basic package of 10 photos a month for $1,000. If we do a 12-month retainer at a 20% discount, that gives us a grand total of $9,600. Not bad. Regarding payment terms, I always have a monthly amount due at the start of each month. In this example, the client would owe $800 at the beginning of every month. This is important. In a retainer agreement, I always have the client pay the full amount for the assets before they get them. Since they're getting a discount already, all of my clients have been fine with these terms. This also protects you. If they don't pay, you don't shoot. If you haven't received a payment yet, you can always say, hey, we're still waiting on the payment for the month before we can start photographing. Can you get this to us today? When asking for a payment, always be specific when you want to get paid. Now, probably the hardest part of retainers is pitching them. The way you present these and how you present them to a client is very important. My client acquisition process is mainly cold email. The cold emails I send have no mention of a retainer. After the cold email, I hop on a sales call with clients, and most of the call is me asking them questions and learning how I can best help them. I actually have a discovery call video on my channel if you want to learn more about that. At the end of the call, I'll talk about my package options and casually mention that we have clients on retainer as well, where they can get a 20% off discount off of these packages. At this point, the client will either express interest in a normal package or a retainer, and you can take it from there. Almost always, they just want a typical package and no retainer, no problem. This is great for you because you get to test out this client and see how they are to work with. After you deliver your final assets, you can plug your retainer again. After a project is complete, I'll send an email, usually with a case study of a retainer client. I show them how through a retainer, they were able to improve the sales or marketing or revamp their social media or website. I mentioned there's a discount included in all of this, and I ask the client if they're interested in learning more. From here, you can talk about your specific retainer you had in mind and say you can customize it to fit their needs. And there you go. Retainers are the best way to increase the amount of money you can make per project. My name's Chris Pieta, and if you want weekly lessons like this in your inbox, I have a free creative business newsletter linked below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.